So right now, this is a hot topic because IGN has given a review to Destiny of 5, like a 5 out of 10, not a 5 out of 5. They've given it a 5 out of 10. Now, I think perspective is important here because I think Shadowkeep, what did Shadowkeep get, guys? Was it a 7 out of 10? Shadowkeep got a 7.9, all right? Now, understand that this is an ongoing review, but I do want to just read this real quick. All right, Destiny 2's Lightfall review in progress, one of the biggest disappointments for Destiny in a long time. On the chin-covered heels of the impressive Witch Queen expansion and a relatively strong year of live service support overall, it seems like Destiny 2 was finally gaining momentum as it headed toward the conclusion of its epic saga. Sadly, my optimism for a game I've spent thousands of hours playing has come crashing down like a Cabal drop pod after just a couple dozen with Destiny's latest expansion, Lightfall. The story is so shockingly incoherent that even someone who spent countless hours reading Destiny's lore, like I have, couldn't understand its nonsense. The new destination, Neptune, feels as lifeless as the real planet, and the endgame, seasonal activities, has so few surprises to offer, at least so far, that they give me deja vu in the worst possible way. Thankfully, a number of Lightfall's activities are challenging enough to warrant me leaning forward in my seat. The new Strand subclass is a nice addition to Destiny's sandbox, and the most recent batch of quality of life improvements largely succeed at making my time shooting space rhinos in the face a less bumpy ride. I still have a little more to do, and the eventual raid ahead of me. But so far, even Lightfall's best parts haven't been able to wash the overwhelming taste of disappointment out of my mouth. Now, the opening moments of Lightfall are some of the best, as Destiny's long-awaited final villain, the Witness, arrives in our solar system to deal a blow against humanity and our allies. But any excitement is quickly swept into the vacuum of space as you bizarrely and inexplicably redirected from the action to take part in a seemingly unrelated side quest in the Neomuna city of Neomuna. Not only is the story a decidedly low-stakes diversion that draws you away from the real conflict happening on Earth, but it flat out does not make sense. That's not just me saying that either. Some of the Destiny's community's greatest lore minds have been completely stumped by the utter nonsense of Lightfall's story. The events on Neomuna surround a MacGuffin called the Veil, a mysterious artifact that you're told is super important, but nobody ever tells you what it is or its purpose, even a little bit, ever. I think most of us called it a butthole, a neon butthole. Your enemy is Callus, a stack of pancakes cosplaying as an air fryer, who serves as the least intimidating antagonist in Destiny's history. Best voice though. Well, no, honestly, I think Callus might have the best voice. Now, as you wage war against an incompetent moron for control of an artifact you know nothing about, you'll also discover the dark powers of Strand, a green element subclass our heroes spend half the campaign trying to figure out and how to use in a process so dull they literally skip over some of it by giving you a Rocky-style training montage at one point. Yikes. Yeah, yeah, that was something. Along the way, you also meet the Cloud Striders, Nimbus and Rohan, who are these 12-foot tall, cybernetically infused humanoids with personalities that were apparently drawn randomly from a basket of cliches. Rohan is an elderly Cloud Strider who all but stares directly into the camera to tell you he's a day away from retirement. I wonder what will happen to him. While Nimbus is a young surfer dude who makes cringy jokes as humanity's holocaust unfolds. Staying on brand with the rest of the campaign, the writing for these two is so extraordinarily bad, it makes interacting with them a painful chore, especially Nimbus, who manages to make the low stakes of Lightfall's story feel even more laughable with their irritating adolescent hijinks. Just as quickly as it began, the story wraps up a mere 8 hours later while resolving none of its greater questions and kicking the can down the road for an actual story development to be dealt with at a later date, neatly putting all the pieces back exactly where they were at the beginning. The storytelling is so dreadful and makes me nostalgic for the days of the infamous "I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain" line uttered in vanilla Destiny. But worse than that, it undermines the approaching finale by trivializing the arrival of the Witness and slamming the brakes on any momentum or goodwill Destiny gained from the Witch Queen's excellent writing. As a longtime Destiny fan, I was utterly heartbroken by both the disappointing whiplash in quality and all the wasted story potential by the time I finished Lightfall's campaign. It's not just the plot that disappoints either. The levels themselves feel decidedly less unique or memorable than the Witch Queen. The interesting puzzles and giant raid mechanics featured in last year's campaign have been replaced with irritating battles taking place in an arena where you often run in circles to survive, stopping to take shots here and there while you can. Instead of finding interesting new enemies like the Light-Bearing Hive, Lightfall has you mostly finding the same burly cabal that we've been at war with for 9 years, which have always been one of Destiny's less engaging adversaries. Well, technically, we did find a new enemy. We fought tormentors, so we still fought Hive, but they were loosened Hive in the midst of it. So Strand does at least help ease the monotony of the campaign's action, representing the biggest shakeup to Destiny's sandbox in a long while. The powers themselves aren't revolutionary to Destiny. You get a new melee ability, new supers for each class that deal huge DPS, and some new buffs and debuffs to play with, like Suspend, which lifts enemies off the ground and entangles them briefly, or Sever, which causes enemies' damage output to become significantly reduced. Admittedly, these additions aren't hugely different from what we've seen in Destiny over the years. For example, Suspend effectively does the same thing as the freezing powers of stasis that we got with Beyond Light, and casting Strand supers to take out large group of enemies works more or less identically to other subclasses, but with a different color. Well, not really. The damage is way more potent, and Suspend is way nasty. Don't get me wrong, I like stasis, I like freezing things, but Strand is meta, without a doubt. But that's not to say Strand has nothing unique to offer. The main reason to pick it over other classes is its unmatched mobility, since the subclass replaces your Guardian's Grenade with a grapple hook that allows you to swing around the environment and pull yourself toward enemies to follow up with a devastating melee hit, both of which are a lot of fun. It's definitely an interesting trade-off, since gaining access to a grapple hook is rarely worth losing a grenade over, but it still adds some much-needed diversity to the sandbox and is a great option to help navigate the vertical nature of Neomuna's skyscrapers. Now, you'll be spending most of your time on the neon-soaked streets of Neomuna, a city that's been peculiarly hidden from the rest of the galaxy until now, yet houses massive buildings and technology that surpasses even that of Guardians during the Golden Age. Unfortunately, this setting is as flimsy as its lore, and is barren and lifeless despite supposedly thriving up until the recent Cabal invasion. Each area of Neomuna contains a handful of featureless buildings and plenty of Cabal-infected enemies to battle, but little else to engage with aside from the standard fare patrols and public events that we've seen in every Destiny location since 2014. So, this is the trade-off, and I hate to say this, but this is true. Would you rather higher enemy density or higher NPCs? That's the trade-off currently right now with the system. Now, I think a Destiny 3 will present us something better to go past that point if we get a Destiny 3. But I see what he's saying, because we were expecting this lush environment with tons of people. That's what we were expecting. And instead, we load up into a city where everyone has taken refuge into the Matrix, essentially. So you don't get to see that. You just see huge amounts of enemy density. I get what he's saying. But I also understand the limitations of Destiny, and Bungie has said in the past, it's like more enemy density, more, I guess, NPCs. Personally, I love the enemy density that we get on Neomuna. I love how many enemies we have that are spawning up in these activities. It feels truly overwhelming at times, and it's fantastic. All right, let's continue. Now, you might be thinking, but shouldn't this thriving city on Neptune be full of people to talk to? Of course it should, right? It'd be crazy to make the whole thing look like a derelict corporate park with no intelligent life in sight. Well, as you're conveniently told early in your visit, all of Neomuna's citizens have been uploaded to a virtual network to achieve immortality. They only appear around the city as a blurry ghost-like outlines. The only physical beings occupying the meat space of Neomuna are a duo of Cloud Striders who apparently follow the 6 rules of 2, so there's no chance of you meeting a third, maybe more interesting character even by accident. Luckily, there's at least one exciting new enemy for you to fight along the way, as Lightfall introduces the Tormentor, a warrior of the darkness who chases you around with a scythe, takes away your abilities with suppression powers, and can nearly one-shot you with its terrifying grapple attack. As the first true foot soldier of the darkness, we faced, after years of speculation, that their pyramid ships would be filled with a new horrors of us to confront. The Tormentor serves as a glimmer of hope for what I imagine will be a fully realized enemy faction once we finally face the Witness head on. But for now, they're one of the only things to occasionally inject some desperately needed freshness into Lightfall's otherwise stale sandbox. They may be a bit overused in the campaign for that reason, but they are at least genuinely fun new obstacle to overcome. Let me just mention on this point. I thought Tormentors would just randomly show up on patrols. Like, I thought I would be just, like just cruising on my Sparrow, and then all of a sudden I just get grabbed by a Tormentor, and it's on, man. It's on. I thought that's what we were going to experience. I felt like Tormentors would have been an amazing, because Lucent Hive, you ran into Lucent Hive throughout Savern's Throne World. They would show up and mess you up. Tormentors 100% should be high value targets, without a doubt. And that would make things so much scarier. Now hold up. What if this is another Dreaming City situation, where after the first week of the raid, what if Neomuna begins to change and Tormentors start to get unleashed onto Neomuna? Think about it. Now, a less thrilling addition is that Cabal enemies, now infused with the wicked power of darkness, will frequently drop a shard upon death that grants an overshield to their allies for a long time unless it's destroyed. While it's at least a new challenge to contend with, it's mostly just causes the flow of combat to grind to a halt every couple of seconds as you're forced to remove overshields from the enemy before proceeding, only for another shard to drop the next time you kill something. Now, once you've completed Lightfall's campaign, you'll be greeted by the usual post-game quests and busy work that have followed all Destiny's recent campaigns. There's nothing bad about the post-game stuff I've played so far. There's also nothing super exciting about it. You'll learn a little more about Neomuna and go on Odyssey to obtain new exotic weapons, or maybe even grind out some more customization options for the Strand subclass. But nothing I've played has made me particularly motivated about continuing to triumphs around Neptune. I still have some quests to check off my list before finalizing this review, and I'm hopeful the raid that debuts on March the 10th will prove more entertaining than the rest of my adventures so far. But as of right now, things are looking pretty dire for a game that's been close to my heart for many years. No doubt, Lightfall's shortcomings are made more painful by immediately following the Witch Queen and its strong post-launch updates, which felt like Destiny 2 had finally overcome its storytelling woes and charted out a strong future for itself. After playing Lightfall, perhaps too fittingly given its name, that future doesn't look quite as bright. All right, so who wrote this? Travis. Look, let me tell you something. I will say this about Travis. My man's a gamer. He's not somebody, this isn't somebody that doesn't play the game. You know, I think some people jump to conclusions on Twitter. 5 is harsh, but Travis is the gamer. He's also a Destiny gamer. He's legit. He is legit, guys. He plays the piss out of Destiny. He loves this game, really. But with that being said, Travis is one of the harshest critics I've ever seen when it comes to Destiny. He is a very harsh critic. This is not someone that's writing this article that doesn't play Destiny, is what I'm saying. Like, it'd be different if it was, I mean, obviously, I don't know all the writers at IGN, but at least I know Travis. And I know that he played through probably literally everything up until this point, and this is his review, and he's not somebody that doesn't play this game. Now, 5 out of 10 is a very harsh score. And I think the reason why Travis is giving it such a harsh score, and IGN is giving it such a harsh score, is because the expectation, the bar had been set. Witch Queen had set that bar. I love everything about Lightfall except the narrative. Strand, I'm loving it. Neomuna, although it could be more lush with more people, I would take the trade-off of more enemy density. I love the enemy density that is on Neomuna. I love everything. Now, I think Tormentors 100% should be roaming the city, especially considering that Nezarec is literally whispering in our ear. Nezarec, every time you start completing events, Nezarec's literally like, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to fuck you up next week. Are you ready? Are you ready? And at that moment of him whispering that a Tormentor should be roaming about at the same time. Now, with that being said, will we actually get Tormentors after the raid? Perhaps. I think everything is really going to hinge on what unfolds over the next week to 2 weeks. What's going to happen leading up to the raid? What answers are we going to get? And imagine, I'm hoping this is going to happen. I'm hoping at the end of the raid, we get all the answers. The veil, the witness. What the hell did the witness just do to the traveler? How is Nezarec a part of this? Because Nezarec is definitely going to be a part of the raid. Everything really does hinge on the raid, which is sometimes bad. Because every time I have ever looked at you guys and said everything depends on the raid or the dungeon popping off, it doesn't. It doesn't work out well. Now, with that being said, if this raid that comes out doesn't pop as good as Val, if we don't get a raid boss that exceeds Rook, or at least matches, then it's going to be hard to say that this expansion, I still wouldn't give it a 5 out of 10, but it wouldn't be much higher than that. And understand the bar has been moved. I know that Shadowkeep was a 7.9 out of 10. We were coming off the back of Bungie separating from Activision. They were doing their own thing. And I feel like we were giving Bungie a chance. We're like, Bungie's independent now. We got to give them a chance. And so 7.9. And Shadowkeep brought some good things. It really did. I still enjoyed that expansion. But where Bungie is now, this isn't like you're just starting to get your feet under you. No, you are established. You are here. And so we're going to have to see how this raid plays out this week. This time next week, guys, because it's Sunday right now, March 5th. This time next week, we will have this same conversation. And I'm either going to sit here and tell you, guys, this is one of the best expansions we ever got. Or I'm going to tell you, guys, damn, this is bad. And keep in mind, what this really puts the most pressure on is not Lightfall. This is not putting the most pressure on Lightfall. This, in my opinion, is putting the most pressure on Final Shape. Everything that could have been introduced in this expansion, like a new enemy faction, all that stuff, I think everything is really getting pushed onto Final Shape. Final Shape, that's where the pressure is going to be the most. Because what we're going to say after this, we're going to say, okay, Lightfall could have been perfect. It didn't. It fell flat on that. Final Shape is going to have to be perfect. All right, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about. Am I hopeful? I am hopeful. Look, I don't play this game for any other reason than I think most of us can say this. We're kind of addicted. We're kind of addicted to this game, you know? Even right now, I mean, I'm like loving the shit out of blasting stuff in Lightfall. I don't even know if it's like, I don't even know at this point if am I addicted to the grind? I mean, there's a lot of games I've played that require grind and I don't stick with it. Destiny just has an addicting quality about it. I broke up with my girlfriend over this game. Hey man, I've been there.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.